Today on Smooth Jazz, we take you around the NBA to look at the latest news from the league.
Plus, game recaps of the Jazz's first two wins against OKC and last night at Sacramento.
Then we'll take a look at next week's matchups against the Nuggets, the Rockets, and the Bulls, and details on our first giveaway. All this and more today on Smooth Jazz. You're listening to Smooth Jazz with Jackson and Kyle. Welcome to Smooth Jazz, everybody. I'm your host, Kyle Bowman, alongside Jackson Ringer, and we're going to take you around the NBA to look at the latest news from the league.
First, starting with the Jazz, we got Jordan Clarkson becoming an official Lululemon brand ambassador. First NBA player to do so, to be a brand ambassador. So that's pretty sick. Shout out to JC. You know he's always dripping, always looking fresh, and now he's gonna look even fresher. How nice would it be to have free Lulu? Whenever you want.
Why can't I be a Lululemon ambassador? Because I need the free clothes. Jordan Clarkson doesn't need free clothes.
Yeah, he has enough. Share the wealth.
But I'm happy for JC. No, he deserves it, I think, more than anybody else. And he's going to be even drippier than usual now. Also with the Jazz, recently released the NBA all-time top 75 list. 3 Jazz men on the list, 4 if you count new owner Dwayne Wade. But John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Pistol Pete Maravich all made top 75 all-time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all well-deserved. I haven't paid too much attention to the NBA 75 list. I don't know. We'll talk about this later, or I guess in a second, but we have all this drama kind of surrounding the list. But I think this is all obvious. 3 obvious choices. These 3 Jazz men. So yeah,
I don't think that's controversial at all. Stockton and Malone, greatest pick and roll duo of all time.
Yeah.
No, there's no argument there. Pistol Pete Maravich also, innovator with ball handling. He changed the game. But there are some people who feel left out. Not on the Jazz. I think Joe Ingles could have made the list, but Klay Thompson is very upset being left off the list. Do you think he deserves a spot?
Honestly, no. I don't really. I just don't see him on. I don't see why he should be on that list. I get he's one of the greatest shooters. He's won 2 championships, but I feel like everyone else on the list has a better career as a whole than Klay Thompson. Maybe in a few years you look at Klay Thompson's career, but I think as of now, he shouldn't have a spot on the list.
Yeah, I think Klay Thompson, top 5 shooter of all time, arguably.
Yeah.
And like you said, he's got a couple championships. He is a great player, but I agree that I don't think his career is what it needs to be top 75 all time. Maybe at the end of his career, maybe he'll be top 100 all time list in 25 years. We'll look back. But it's hard to look back at all of these players and when we can see their whole career and say, yeah, Klay Thompson is that, because we don't know how the rest of his career will go.
Yeah. And he hasn't played for 2 years. Not his fault, obviously, with injury. But I just don't think as a whole he's put the career together yet. He's a beast. He's a great shooter. He's one of the key reasons why the Warriors have won their championships. But top 75 all time, I'm not sure.
Another snub, in his own opinion, who feels very left out of the list, Dwight Howard. Very upset not making the list. Do you think he deserves a spot on the top 75 all time?
No, and I'm passionate about this. This might be a hot take, but Dwight Howard has not been good for a long time, and he was dominant when I was like in elementary school. You have the pictures of Yeah, I remember like the Got Milk posters or whatever, the posters in the cafeteria with Dwight Howard, in the dunk contest with the Superman cape on. He was dominant back then with the Magic. Really helped carry that team. But he has not been good for he I feel like he had this 3-4 year period where he was a dominant force in the NBA. But since then he's been a journeyman, just going around the league to all these different teams. Has he really done that much with the Lakers as of late? I don't think so. I don't get what the big deal is about him not being on the list. I think Vince Carter and Tracy McGrady not being on the list, I think that's a bigger deal than Dwight Howard not being on the list.
Yeah, and I know that we often agree on these things, and I have to agree. I don't think that Dwight Howard's career merits a spot on the list. And like you said, bigger names were left off, better careers were left off. And Dwight Howard, you had a great run for a few years. You were obviously a dominant player in that time, but ever since he just hasn't made any noise in the league.
Yeah.
Interesting note that was made to the list, Damian Lillard made the top 75 list.
Okay.
I think he deserves it. Maybe I'm biased just because he's a Weber State product here from Utah, but I really respect his game, and I think he, in a different situation, he would have a lot of the credentials that the other guys have, championship rings. But he's been loyal to Portland. He's stuck it out, even though it's obviously not ideal with his supporting cast. But I was happy that he made it. I think he deserves it.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Dame fan. Just going back to the Dwight Howard situation for a sec, we saw last night an interesting thing happened in the Lakers game. You had him and Anthony Davis getting physical on the bench. What do you make of this? Are the Lakers falling apart already, or what's your opinion on this?
Well, I think everybody's ready to say that yes, they are, because like we've even talked about this, that there's too many big names and big egos on one team. I don't think it's as big of a deal as it's been made out to be. Yeah. I think it's not good for the Lakers. I don't think it's great to be fighting on the bench with your own teammates, but I don't think it's gonna derail their season in any way.
No,
it's not a good sign, but it's not a sign of the end either.
I want this to be a big deal, but it is not a big deal. This happens all the time, and sometimes, I mean, you see it at least once a season. There's teammates chirping at their own teammates on the bench. This happens all the time, and it's more common in locker rooms. And these are just a bunch of dudes playing a game they're passionate about. They're gonna have arguments and stuff like that, but the Lakers will be fine. I'm not worried about them from personally. I'm just not afraid of them. I think the team isn't as good as they look on paper or whatever with their big names, but I don't think because of this altercation that's what's gonna derail their season already or something like that. Like, they're fine. They're probably just chilling right now. Like, I think they're good.
Yeah, and I did see a report today that they've already kind of cleared the air and talked about things. So I would like it to be the end, but it's definitely not. More drama in the NBA out of Philadelphia. Ben Simmons returned to camp, showed up unannounced, and would not join a drill after being repeatedly asked, and was kicked out of practice.
Yeah.
And now he's said that he's had back problems, back tightness, it was reported as. And that's why he didn't want to join the drill. But Ben Simmons will not play.
Yeah. It's a crazy situation. And then you have the 76ers owner saying that this could go on for the next 3 years. Like, the 76ers are committed to having Ben Simmons on their roster, unless they can get a huge name for him, which they won't. So this is going to drag on for a while. And then you have Ben Simmons telling the team that he's just not mentally ready to play to his capabilities yesterday or whatever. I just think this is all BS. And honestly, you saw this coming in a way. You knew Ben Simmons coming out of LSU was not the highest character dude. A lot of the scouting reports said that his character was an issue, that he's really just concerned about himself. And I think Ben Simmons, obviously as Jazz fans, we're gonna hate on Ben Simmons, but I think the majority of NBA fans feel this way. Ben Simmons is an example of someone who has tons of talent, has been blessed with just natural ability and physical capabilities.
Except for shooting.
Except for shooting, yeah, exactly. And he has all this talent, but he can't put in the work to get better at the one thing that he's lacking at. I mean, you see Giannis already, the start of the season. Giannis has always been a poor shooter, but he's progressively gotten better, put in the work in the off season, and you saw this first opening week of the season, Giannis was pulling up, looked more confident with his shot. Prime example of someone who puts in work. Ben Simmons is the opposite of that. And the 76ers, man, if I was a 76ers fan, the trusting the process did not work out.
Yeah, and like you said, it's easy to hate on Ben Simmons as a Jazz fan.
Yeah.
But we were just right early on.
Yeah.
He's Rookie of the Year. Ben Simmons has just not been able to live up to expectations. And it's almost sad because he's not helping himself out.
Yeah.
He keeps hurting his stock even more. He's becoming less and less valuable as he drags on this whole ordeal with the Sixers. And I don't see it ever getting better for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Do you think Ben Simmons? When do you think Ben Simmons will play? Do you think he will play a game for the 76ers this season?
This season, at least not until halfway through the season,
Okay,
if at all.
Wow, I think within a couple of weeks he'll be back on the floor, but I don't know. It could drag on. I just think eventually because the 76ers don't have to pay him the full amount, right? If he's not playing.
Well, he hasn't made any money. He's been fined.
Yeah.
He's had to pay for missing camp and practice.
Yeah.
So he's in a tough spot and he keeps making it more difficult.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm just glad we have Donovan.
Yeah. I'd much take runner up over Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
In other news, Steph Curry went off against the Clippers. He also made that top NBA 75 list. 45 points, 8 for 13 from 3. How worried are you about the Warriors?
I'm not worried, but I do like watching Steph. And yeah, it was fun to see, especially since the Clippers. I'd say I was definitely pulling for the Warriors in that game. Steph Curry, I've always loved Steph Curry, not necessarily the Warriors per se, but yeah, he went off. It was good to see. Classic Steph performance. So
here's something we can disagree on.
Yeah.
I hate Steph Curry.
Really?
Do not like him.
Wow.
As a person, he's a great guy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
As a player, I despise him.
Wow.
Although he is exciting to watch, I'll admit that. But
Yeah.
I don't like his style of play.
Okay.
Great shooter. I respect his game, but I don't like him.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting take.
But yeah,
Wow.
45 points. I can't.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
I can't
bro.
hate on
You
it.
can't.
I respect his game. He's great, but just not a fan.
Okay. Wow.
Now you know.
Wow. Okay.
And now we're going to take a look at some Jazz basketball this week. We were able to go actually on Tuesday
Yeah,
to
let's
the home
talk about
opener.
the Jazz, bro. Let's talk about the Jazz, dude. That was the home. The first two games are in the books. What do you think? What the OKC on what was that? Tuesday night.
Mhm.
It was fun to be there. We were at the game. Energy was good. It was a bit of a blowout. Not the most exciting game, but it was fun to be there.
Yeah, and it wasn't a flawless performance by any means on the Jazz's part. Couple notable problems. Donovan Mitchell didn't really show out as he often does. He seemed to struggle both shooting and getting to the rack. He's kind of had a hard time in both those games. They really collapsed on him really well. Like they clogged up the lane, they kept him from getting to the rim. Jax is telling us now that the game was Wednesday night.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Jax, for correcting us there. Jared Butler, I was really looking forward to see him play, but he did not. He looked great in the preseason. He had a lot of confidence, but he came into this game, he looked really nervous. A few turnovers really quick.
It was pretty bad, honestly, but it's like it's his first
It's still
game.
early on.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
I'm still hopeful for him to have a great. I'm sure he'll have a great career and everything, and I'm sure he'll improve as the season goes on. I really hope that he would just show up and go off, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. The NBA is way different from college ball, but I expect Jared Butler to be fine. I think it's gonna take a little while for him to get into the rotation, get his rhythm, but we've seen his talent. He looks good. Something positive from this game was that Rudy looked pretty dominant the entire night offensively, and he was a rebound machine. 21 rebounds. He just went off. And then Donovan, although he did not have a great shooting, scoring performance, one thing that we saw a little bit in the preseason was that Donovan looked a lot better defensively. And Donovan hasn't been a terrible defender in his career, but he also hasn't been that great of a defender. And so that's probably one part of his game that he could work on the most, his defense. And he looked pretty good defending Lou Dort. He looked, strong, quick. And I think his defense you can see the improvements already that he's made during the offseason.
Yeah, and Donovan has improved defensively, and Rudy Gobert has been improving a lot offensively as well. He finished the night with 16 points and, like you said, 21 rebounds. And what really helps, Donovan Mitchell only had 16, which for him is uncharacteristic. But when you have six guys in double digits, we had Bogdanovich, Gobert, Mitchell, Conley, Clarkson, and Ingles all with double digits. Clarkson with 18, Mitchell and Gobert with 16, Bogdanovich with 22. You're going to have a tough time losing when you have that many guys scoring that well. That balanced scoring, you can't just take away one guy because the Jazz have a lot of depth and they're able to get points on the board in a lot of different ways. Yeah. So that was really promising to see that. And we saw that a bit against the Nuggets as well. But we're going to talk now about that's game, moment of the game. The moment when we knew the game was over for better or for worse. When did you know that the Jazz had sealed the game and won?
I knew when JC came in, Jordan Clarkson came in right off the bench, didn't miss a beat from last year. He made his first, I think it was 6 or so shots in a row. He just came in, provided that spark off the bench that we know he's going to provide. And went off his game. I love watching his game. It's so sporadic, but controlled at the same time. It's so fun to watch, fun to see him play. And when he heats up, I mean, he's the Human Torch. It was fun to see. And that was my moment where I knew the Jazz were going to win the game. What about you?
I mean, I knew pretty early on too. It was pretty clear that the Jazz were going to win. And I knew in the first quarter when Rudy Gobert, crashing to the rim, laid in a finger roll.
Oh, yes. I forget about that.
He easily could have two-hand slammed it, but he went up and he just laid it
Rudy
in.
with the jelly.
When Rudy hits the finger roll, you know that it's going to be a good game. And the Jazz were ahead. They were firing on all cylinders. There were a couple lapses defensively, rotation issues and things, but nothing too serious, and it ended with a win. Yeah,
and one thing to touch on, the player of this game probably was Bogey. He looked good, and as I was watching the game, I was wondering, is this the first season since 2020 that Bogey is fully healthy? because he missed the playoffs in the bubble for his wrist surgery, and then he still wasn't fully recovered at the beginning of last season, and he just didn't look right for the majority of last season. He had this big shooting slump, still recovering from his surgery. Finally, towards the end of the season in the playoffs, he went off, and he looked really, really good in that first game against OKC. I think this could be a really good season for Bogey, since he's fully healthy, as long as he stays fully healthy.
Yeah, and he, I think, is one of the most underrated players, maybe even in the league. He produces well. He can drive and shoot really well. He didn't have a great night getting to the rim against the Kings. He had some turnovers, but he has a very versatile game. He's got some size, and his shooting is lights out.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get talked about a ton outside of Utah.
Yeah.
When you look at the Jazz, you look at the big names like Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Sixth Man of the Year Jordan Clarkson, former Sixth Man of the Year Joe Ingles. But the Jazz are so balanced that it's a threat for other teams. And Bogdanovich is a prime example of that. He's in double digits every night, and he just is a very great versatile player.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this could be bogey season.
This could be bogey season.
We'll take a look now at last night's game against Sacramento. The Jazz pulled out a bit of an ugly win against the Kings, despite struggles after Joe Ingles was ejected in the first quarter for a flagrant 2 foul.
Yeah. No, let's talk about that. What happened there?
Well, you saw it was Davion Mitchell.
Yeah.
He was going up, fast break layup. Joe Ingles trying to get out of the way, clips his foot, and he goes down scary. The officials ruled that it was unnecessary contact and reckless contact on a helpless shooter. And I think a flagrant 1 could have been maybe justified.
Yeah.
Not an ejection. It definitely was unintentional. Joe Ingles immediately apologized as soon as he saw him go down. He was worried about him. Clearly didn't mean to. There was no malicious intent, but was ejected just like that. And that was a huge blow to the Jazz. There was a huge momentum swing there because after that, the Kings went on a 15-0 run. And that was not necessarily due to Joe Ingles being the Jazz's number 1 producer and losing him, but when you take out one of your key rotators, your rotation switches up, the chemistry is off. You're not in with the same guys that you usually are. And it looks like that's what happened with the Jazz. That chemistry got thrown off. A bit of a moral problem, morale, not moral, morale.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they just looked to struggle quickly after Joe Ingles goes out, and they took a long time to recover from that. A lot of the first half, they turned the ball over too much. The Kings were running the fast break. Lots of inside mid-range jumpers that were falling, floaters that were going for them. So bad first half, but the Jazz managed to scrape it out.
Yeah, that's what I took away from the game. I mean, the Jazz were down most of the game. It just felt like they were going to lose that game, especially after you had Ingles, as you said, go out early in the first quarter. This affected the rotations and everything. And then you had technicals from Rudy and Quinn. It just didn't seem like it was going to be the Jazz's night. I would also add that some of these calls were very poor. But the Jazz, they pulled it out despite not looking too good. I mean, I'm trying to think who from the Jazz just had a great performance. I don't really know. Everyone played kind of average. But this is something that we talked about in the last episode last week that we expected. The Kings, although they may not be the best team in the West, they're a young team. They're scrappy. They'll compete. They got a lot of talent. I mean, Davion Mitchell was a monster defensively. He's going to be a force for a while in the West. And yeah, it was a it was an interesting game, a sluggish game, and props to the Jazz for coming together in the end and pulling out the victory, because it didn't look like they were going to win that game.
Yeah, Davion Mitchell was a problem.
Yeah,
for the Jazz. They really struggled getting points in the paint. The Kings outscored the Jazz, I believe it was 54-40 for points in the paint, because they were clogging up the lane. Dave, you don't often see someone in their second ever NBA game step up and strip the ball from all-star Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell just could not get to the rack, which he compensated with greatly with his three-point shooting. He still ended the night with 27 points, but they really forced him off his game. He wasn't able to score at will by getting to the rim. So yeah, the Kings, I know I said last week I'd be happy to see the Kings do better. Maybe not this good. They were definitely tougher than I thought it would be, and it was a very, very physical game. Definitely too physical. Rudy was getting bullied all night by Alex Len.
Alex Len, every time he was in the game, he was colliding with somebody. It was weird because I feel like the refs allowed a lot of physicality, but then there were also just some really ticky-tack, weak calls. I don't know. It was a poorly officiated game, in my opinion. But yeah, the Jazz pulled it out. One thing of note is as we talked about, Davion Mitchell locked down Donovan. This has been a theme in the first two games of the season. Donovan hasn't really been able to get to the basket, as we know he's capable of doing. In his credit, he's gone up against Lou Dort and now Davion Mitchell, who looks to be a really good defender. What do you think about this? Do you think is this cause for concern, or what's your opinion on this?
I'm a little concerned.
Yeah.
I think in the past, Donovan Mitchell has really been able to cut through the lane and get a look no matter who was on him.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not terribly concerned. And that's because the Jazz didn't have the ball movement that they usually have last night. Their offense seemed kind of stagnant. They were trying a lot of ISO, kind of like one-on-one basketball, and that's not the name of the game. Utah Jazz brand of basketball is a lot of ball movement, finding open looks or open lanes. So I think that as the ball movement improves, Donovan Mitchell's ability to get to the rim will improve, because both Sacramento and OKC were able to really collapse on him and force turnovers. He wasn't able to even kick the ball out a lot of the times. The ball was stripped or knocked away or out of bounds or missed shots because they really were taking the rim away. So I think we just need to go back to the ball movement that we know and love, find more open looks and more open lanes, and I think it'll improve a lot in all aspects of his game. The reason why I'm not terribly concerned is because even though they took away his driving, he scored 27 points. Lights out from three. So why should I be that worried? I mean, if you take away his bread and butter and he's still getting 27 points, I think they should be concerned.
Yeah. It's not cause for concern for me. I mean, we're used to seeing the Jazz in general have slow starts at the beginning of the season, but also Donovan Mitchell has had these slow starts. So I'm not worried. He is looking dominant from three so far, and this goes back to the playoffs of last year, where Donovan, his ankle, he couldn't drive as well because he was having his ankle problems. Didn't have that quick first step, so he had to rely more on his 3-point shot, and we saw that he still went off in the playoffs with these 40-point games on a bummy ankle. And I'm wondering if this confidence early in these first two games in his 3-point shot goes back to him seeing back in the playoffs, I can't get to the basket, but I can still dominate from behind the arc. So I'm not too worried. I think it's just a slow start for Mitchell to start the season, but like you said, he dropped 27 last night. He should be good.
And going forward, hopefully he's able to go back to his game a little bit. Now we'll take a look at the Jazz's matchups for this next week. Tuesday, the Nuggets are coming to Salt Lake City. Reigning MVP Jokic, averaging 29.5 points per game, leading this team in points, assists, blocks, and steals, which is scary. What else is scary is they have 4 other guys all in double digits. So the Nuggets are looking pretty good. Utah, though, I think has a more balanced scoring. They're more of a threat versatility-wise. So I think they'll be able to, if they take away Jokic, they'll be able to pull out a win. It should be a great matchup, though. The key to this game will really be locking down Jokic and having that same balanced scoring that they've had through their first 2 games.
Yeah, the Nuggets are a tough team. I'm excited to watch this game, even without Jamal Murray. They'll be even deadlier when he returns. But yeah, this will be the Gobert, Rudy Gobert, Nikola Jokic battles are always fun to watch, and we'll see this one. This could be a potential playoff matchup preview Tuesday night. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and Jokic really is a unique case. You know, you don't often see a center who leads your team in points, assists, blocks, and steals.
Yeah.
So it's definitely exciting, but I think we match up well against them, and we'll be able to take away their brand of basketball and play to our strengths to pull out a win.
Yeah. Then we have Thursday night against the Rockets. The Jazz will be traveling to Houston to play them. The Rockets, I mean, honestly, this should be an easy win. The Rockets are one of the worst teams in the NBA, 29th in the NBA power rankings, right above the Thunder. But they did acquire some talent in the offseason. They drafted Jalen Green, number 2 overall. He is a 6'6" shooting guard from the G League Ignite, where he averaged 17.1 points last year, 4.1 rebounds, 2.8 assists. So he's a player who did not go to college. Instead, went straight to the G League, and he looked dominant. I'm excited to see him play. I'm interested to see if going straight to the G League helps you be more prepared for the NBA as opposed to going to college. It'll be interesting to see how he does this year. Again, drafted number 2 overall. And then the Rockets acquired the 16th pick from OKC this past draft to draft Turkish big man Alperen Sengun. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but he averaged 14.5 points, 11 rebounds, 2.8 assists, and 3 blocks in the preseason. So he looked pretty good too. It will be nice to see them play. But yeah, I'm expecting an easy win for the Jazz. The Jazz should not lose this one. That would be pretty bad if they lost.
Yeah, it's not a worrying game for me.
Yeah.
I am a little worried though about Saturday's matchup against the Bulls. Right now, Zach LaVine has averaged 33 points through his 2 games, and is combining with DeRozan for an average of 54.5 points per game. That's just through 2 games. So it's hard to really know and get a feel, but they have a scary lineup. Lonzo Ball also in double digits, also averaging 7 assists. So this is the one that's scary to me, and we don't have a lot of precedent for it. It's a big question mark. I don't really know how the Jazz will match up against this lineup. So I'm interested to see how it goes.
Yeah, the Chicago Bulls, there's a lot of unknowns about them. They went 4-0 in the preseason, added all this talent in the offseason. In doing my research about them, they're 15th in the power rankings, but I feel like that's low. They look good. Their roster is pretty stacked with some good talent. I mean, Lonzo Ball playing the best basketball of his career. Same with Zach LaVine. I didn't realize you had Derek Jones Jr. on this team, Vucevic. This team looks a lot better than they're getting credit for, and this is going to be a game where the Jazz have to go to Chicago. I would be surprised if the Jazz could pull out a win in this game. I think this could be the first loss of the season. If the Jazz win, I'd be pleasantly surprised. I think. I mean, I don't even know what the key to the game is. There's so many question marks we don't know about this team, but Zach LaVine has been dominant lately. I think you have to focus on shutting him down. You can't let him drop 30 on you.
Yeah, and there are a lot of question marks. It's definitely a lot of uncertainties, but I feel pretty confident in how the Jazz match up. I think that they can still, the way that they balance their scoring, their versatility, I think they'll be able to pull out a win. So I feel fairly confident about the Jazz's ability. The only question mark for me is how they go about it, their scheme kind of for stopping Chicago's scoring ability. And if you'd like to see the Jazz live and in person, we are giving away 2 tickets to this week's matchup against the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
2 absolutely free tickets. You can follow us on social media for details. Unlimited entries, tag as many people as you want, and we will announce the winner on Monday. That's all we have for today. Go Jazz. Let's keep it up. We've already undefeated season so far. We'll see how it goes this week.
On pace for 82-0. First 2 games, Jazz. It's just fun to watch the Jazz. Not the best performances, but it's fun that they're back. It's exciting, man. And you can trust that the Smooth Jazz podcast will be here every step of the way, as we hope the Jazz are on the way to the championship season we've long awaited. So
thanks for listening. Follow us on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram, and tune in next week for a new episode of Smooth Jazz.